Okay, before we proceed, do you guys have any questions? What we discussed yesterday about local variables?
Ravi, quick question though. Sometimes for save
Yeah.
into and save, right? Sometimes you're using the curly braces and sometimes you're using the straight parenthesis. So how do we know that which one to use? So at the bottom, the instruction says that which way to use curly braces, way to use the the regular, shift 9 and shift 0.
So in save into you can use multiple saves, right? You can do multiple save intos. You can use multiple A bank saves, right? So that time you can use curly braces. Otherwise, you can have only single A bank save as well. So that depends. If you want to perform multiple save into, then you can use curly braces. Otherwise, single save. Let me
Even
quickly.
for the save, you can use the straight, not curly braces, right? Always, you never use curly braces for save.
No, we need to, right? If we have certain use case where we have to do a multiple saving tools, we need to do that perform that multiple within the curly braces. For an example, I'm sharing my screen if you guys can see it, right? So if you see, remember on the create button, we were doing multiple saving tools, right?
Ravi, sorry to disturb you. Can you please
Mhm.
record this?
Yeah, I have started the recording.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So you see this one, right? For this create button in the save into, I'm performing multiple saves, right? One save in and then another save. So I'm using curly braces, right? If you would have wanted to do only one save, then no need of using curly braces. Okay. So that save into allows you to do multiple saves. That's why we need to use curly braces. Clear?
Yeah. What about save then? What about save line number 104?
No, this is the parameter which is required to perform a save. So you can use one target and then a value, right? Here we can't use. I mean, we should not be using save in curly braces. I mean, really, if you want, we can do that. We can put some, if this particular field can contain multiple values, then you can use the curly braces here in the value parameter. Okay.
Got it though. So
Mhm.
if you look at that, save into has the colon and the
Mhm.
save doesn't have colon. Like the syntax I'm talking
Yeah,
about the
this is a parameter. This is a function, right? So this parameter allows you to perform multiple saves, right? That's what the this colon is to saying that you can perform multiple saves here. Within the curly braces, we have multiple saves. Okay, clear?
yeah.
Still have doubts? Yes. This save into is telling you that you can use multiple A bank save function within me. That's what its parameter is about. And that's what we are doing. Inside this save into, we are performing multiple saves. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Kalpana, you said you were having some confusion in the local variables. Is that clear?
Yes, Ravi, it's clear.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. Yes. All right. Now let me extend this rule and then we'll see how do we use. So local variable is clear, right? Now what we'll do, I'll create another expression rule and I'm going to give the name as let's say addition. So this rule will do the addition of two numbers. Okay, I'll say create. Okay. Now I'm going to define a local variable. I'll say local bang num1 25 local bang num2, let's say 65. Okay. Now if I want to do the addition, we can simply say local bank num1 plus local bank num2. Okay. And if I click on the test rule, I'll get the result. Okay. Now what's the problem with this rule? Whenever I will use this rule, right, I will always get 90 as an output, right? Because let's say I want to do 15 plus 20. Can I do that? Every time we have to change the number, we have to come here and we have to edit at this rule, right? Which is not an ideal thing to do, isn't it? Is that problem statement is clear? This rule is also doing the addition, but this rule is fixed because it will always be going to do 25 plus 65 and give you the output as a 90, right? Yes, no? Any doubt to here, guys?
No, Ravi, that's clear.
Okay. So I want to create a rule which should do the addition to the numbers that we pass to it. Okay. So we can also, just like the rule, right? Calculator, what we do in the calculator, we press two numbers and then we say what I need to do, and then it takes that as an input and give me the output, right? So let's say I want to create a rule in a such a way that if I pass certain numbers to it, it should give return me the result according to that. Okay. If it is a plus, then it should give me the addition. So this rule is going for work for the addition, right? So how do I do in a such a way that it should accept the number? So if you remember yesterday we talked about the rule input. Rule input is a kind of a variable which is used to pass the value from one place to other place. So instead of this number 1 and number 2 using as a local variable, I'm going to create another variable type called rule input. You see this, there was an arrow icon. I just press that arrow icon and you see there's a rule input window here. In that rule input window, you can click on the plus icon and I'm going to create num1. Now, what is the difference between rule input and local variable is that local variable you do not have to declare the type of the value. Here you have to select it. So num1, it is going to be the type of number integer. I'll say add one more variable. I'll say num2, and it is going to be number integer as well. Okay. So I created two rule input, num1 and num2, and you can see those rule inputs are also available here. Now instead of doing this local variable plus, right, now I need to use rule input. So how do I refer a rule input? As the name suggests, rule input, the short form will be RI, rule input. As soon as I put rule RI bang, it will start giving you the suggestions. There are two rule inputs, num1 and num2. I'll select the num1 plus RI bang num2. Now if I go and provide some value here and click on the test rule, I'm getting the output 40. Now this rule becomes dynamic. How? Because it is accepting the value from outside. If I change the value here, the output will also be changed. Now this rule is behaving like a dynamic rule, and then you can pass the value to this and get an output. Now you tell me one thing, do I need to is there any use of this local variable?
For now, no.
No, right?
No,
I can delete this. Now I do not have any local variables. So do I need this local variable function?
no.
Right? So we can get rid of this local variable function as well. Now only the plain code is that Ri num1 plus Ri num2. If you click on the test tool, it will still give you the same value. Right? So we remove the unnecessarily code as well, right? So see the changes. Now how this rule behaves now? Wherever we call this rule will ask you to two numbers to be provided, right? So once you provide two numbers, then it will give you the output according to that. So this is the one of the rules that we have created in the dynamic in the nature. So let's go and create one more rule. I'll say call addition. So this rule will call the child rule to perform the addition. Okay. Now what we can do, we can also call a rule within a rule, so that one of my rule that I have created can be used as a function. Okay, so let's go here. How do I call a rule within another rule? So to do so, or if you want to call any other object that you have created in Appian, we can say rule bang, right? Once you start a rule bang and start giving the prefix, it will start giving the name. You see, rule bang scm addition is the rule that I wanted to call. So I select this one. Now it has parentheses. In the below description, you see that it says num1 and num2. This is the rule input that we have created. So for num1, I'm going to pass, let's say 30 here. Sorry. And for num2, I will pass, let's say 25. Now this rule is somewhere else. What this rule is doing? This rule is returning the addition of the value whatever you will pass to it, right? Now if I click on test rule, I'll get the output. So now you understand how the calculator works. Whatever value you will pass to it, it will take and call the function of addition and then get the value to it. So you can also create a rule input. Now what is the use of rule input here? The rule input that we have created is behaving like a bridge, which is allowing you to pass the number to this rule. So that's what we are doing. For number 1 we are passing 30 and number 2 we are passing 25, and inside this rule it's doing the addition. That's why we are getting the output as a 55. Any doubts? Is that clear? What's the use of rule input?
No, Ravi, it's just like a function, right? In Java or somewhere, like you write a function and return, and then you
Right,
have.
exactly. So the rule that we have created is now behaving like a function, which we can call it and get the desired output. Okay,
Mhm.
everyone's clear? What's the use of rule input?
Ravi,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
while giving values to the rule inputs, there is a field called expression.
What the expression?
Expression, rule inputs, while giving values to the rule inputs.
Here?
Expression,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Huh. What is it?
Okay, this allows you to provide a role input, I mean, values with doing some calculation. Let's say I'm saying here, let's say 25 plus 15. So you see it's become 40. It's a testing panel where you can test the value based on your requirement. This is a for testing panel. This has to do nothing whenever you're gonna call this. This is only for this particular rule to be tested. You see, I did 25 plus 15, the value is 14. Now if I do 15 minus 5 here, the actual value will be 10. Now if I do the test rule, what do you think the output will be? It's gonna 50. So whatever your last value, you have it here. Based on that, it will do the operations that you have performed here. This expression is only allow you to provide some test value to this rule. Okay, this has
Oh,
nothing to do whenever you call it. Okay.
okay. Oh,
All right. So as a task, you guys, what you have to do is that, let's see who does better. Um, Create a rule, and also try to pass the operator. Like if I pass plus, then it should do the addition. If I pass minus, then it should do the subtractions. If I pass star mark, then it should do the multiplication likewise. Okay. So you can create multiple rules, but if you also want, you can also try to do it in a single rule. Okay, got it? So is that concept of clear for local variables and role input?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now let me show you how it can also work by using the interface so that you can understand the interface code. So I'm going to create one interface. I'll say calculator. Now, instead of doing the hard code value for the addition, right, that we are passing it, now we'll try to do it by using a interface, by using the accepting the input from the user. Okay, so we have seen this interface designing where the interface was get created by the Appian. Now I am going to create this Appian from the interface from the scratch, very simple interface, but we'll see that. What you can do in the interface, there are two ways of creating the interface designing. First is that design mode, another is that expression mode. What is the difference between this? Design mode, you can design your code, your interface by dragging the components from left to right in the between. In the expression mode, you have to write the code for each object that you will do. Right. Now let's say I'm going to design a form, so I'll just select a form and drop it here. So one form object is added here. Right? If you want to have a form, let's say if you don't need a form and you just need a simple field, right? So we can make use of, let's say, section. So I'll just drag a section and drop it here. So this section is there, but it doesn't have any buttons and all, right? So okay. Now I want to divide my interface object into multiple columns. So I'll just drag a columns. You will find it here, columns, and then drop it here. By default, it gives you the 3 columns. If you want to have only 2 columns, you can simply click a delete button. And if you want to add few more columns, you can simply click on the plus icon. It will design the form for you. Now let's say in the first column, I want to have a text field. So I drag a text field and drop it here. Now I want to change the label called number 1. Okay, so you see that this label has been changed to number 1 and this is going to accept the value here, right? Now when I say that number 1, I say, oh sorry, I don't want to have a text field because I am going to provide some number field here. So just do Control Z, or simply you can click this and say delete, and then instead of text field I drag and drop the number integer field. Right now it will accept only the number integer values. So I'll say number 1 here. Okay, same way I want to have another field here. So I'll say integer field, drop it here. I'll say number 2. Right now in the third column I would like to have a field, but it should be a read only. So I just select it here and I give the name as result. Okay, and then that text field should be read only. So I'll scroll here and I'll say read only checkbox checked. So now this will become a read only true. You cannot add the values here. Okay, now I would also like to have a button. So let's say I'll drag a button layout. If you can't find it, you can type it and then I drag it and drop it here somewhere in between below here. Okay, let's say I would like to change the name of this button. I'll say add. Okay, if I want to have some icon also, you can say okay. So whatever value I'm going to provide here and then say add, I should get the result and display here, right? So that's my interface code that I have designed. Now what if you haven't used this drag and drop feature and you wanted to write a code for it? If you click on the expression mode, you will see that all the code has been designed here based on the interface design that you did. Okay, so you see we have a section layout, which is having a section. If I want to change the label here, say calculator, right? Then we have a columns, one columns layout, and then each one column layout have multiple columns. So you see first column, second column, and third column. First column, second, and third. If you expand the first one, it says number 1. If you expand the second one, it says number 2, and the third one should say result. Right? Now go back to the design mode. Now whatever value we are typing it here is not getting saved. You see, if I click outside, it's gone. Why it's happening? Because we have not saved the values yet. So where you want to save the values? Let's say I want to save the values to the local variable, because whatever value user will type it here, it's not going to come from somewhere else. It's going to be captured here directly, right? Because user is going to type here. So I'll just say plus icon here. I'll say num1 and create. So I created plus icon on the local variables, right? So you see one local variable is being created. Same way for second one also we can say num2 and say create. Now how do I configure then now? If you see the first one, number 1, we have clicked it here, right? If you go to the component configuration, once again, right. Now here we want to configure this integer field. So label is the number and 1, right? Now if you slowly scroll here, you will see that it says save input to, where you want to save it. So if you click on this drop down icon, now local variables are available. I want to select into the local num1. So what if I'm going to provide any value here, say 25. Now you see that num1 is having 25, but we are not able to see it. To allow the code to display whatever you have added here, we need to also select display value. So we need to select the same one. Now whatever value you will add it here, it will display and it will also capture. Let's say I want to change to 65. So 65 is being set. Same way, I would like to configure my number 2. Select this field, it will get highlighted, and you can select the field values here. I'll save into number 2, display number 2. Right? If I pass the some values here, it will get captured in the number 2. Right? All these things are happening in the behind the scene. The code is also getting generated. If you see the expression, the save into and the value parameter is being added here, right? So this is how you can design the code from the design mode. And you see that when we declare the local variables, this function is also get added, and we also have these two variables declared. We haven't write a code, we just did some settings, and then everything is getting generated here. Now certain things you can't perform there, right? So you have to come. So this button, add button, right? We also have a save into parameter, right? Inside the save into parameter, what I need to do? I need to pass the numbers and then get the output, right? So if I'm going to get the output, we should also be saving that output somewhere, right? So what we can do? We can declare one more local variable here, local bang, let's say result, right? So local result. So whenever you click on this add icon, what I'm going to do is that I will use a bank save function, and a bank save function requires two parameters. The first is the target, so my target would be local bank result, right? And the output, the value. And how do I get my value from this addition? Can anyone tell me here what should I write here?
You can use the rule input, add function, that function.
The rule function that we created, right? This
Yes.
rule that we created, the addition, we can call this rule and get the value. So I'll say rule bang scm underscore addition, and it
sharing?
requires two, right? And it requires two parameters. Sorry?
Yes. you're still sharing the first screen, not the second one.
I am on the interface. It will share. Can you see it? Everyone? From the interface code.
Yep.
Okay. So A bank save, my target is a local result, and the value, for the value I'm calling this rule, and this rule has two parameters because we created two rule inputs with the same name, num1 and num2. We can put it here. And for num1, what I need to map?
Local num1.
Local num1, because the value is being captured in the local num1, and same for local num2, we can map it to local num2.
Ravi, do we have to mention num1, num2 there? Can we directly pass
It,
local num1, local
it
num2?
is a good practice to provide the parameter name, because otherwise, let's say you have a parameter in the sequential order. If you change the sequence by passing the number, the value will mismatch. So it's always the best practice to provide the parameter name. Otherwise, you have to make sure you are passing the value in the sequential order that is defined in the rule input. Right. So now, whatever the value, whenever user will click on this add button, this rule will do the addition based on the input that you have given and store the value to the local result. Now, if you see here, the result, I don't need a save into, because this is a read-only field. For the value parameter, I will use local bank result. Right. Now, if you see the code 65 plus 50, I click on the add, I got the result. Right. So input is taken by the user. We are calling another rule that we created earlier on the add button click and storing the result in another variable, and that variable we are using to display the value. Any question till here, guys? So I'll show you the, I did show you that how it works in the design and expression both of the modes. Questions?
No, Ravi.
Okay. And then the task that I gave you, right? In that task, I extend one more thing. So create an interface, pass two numbers, and also have one drop down where you can select the operator like addition, subtractions, multiplication, division. So select the operator, whatever operator you will select, and do the button click, like let's say calculate button, give the name as a calculate. Based on the input and the value operator, you should show me the result. Right, let's say I have 50 plus 50, 50, 50, and then here I say minus, then I should get the result as 0 if I click on the calculate button. If I say 100 plus 100 and 100, and then I say plus, then I should get result as a 200. So based on the operator, it should do the operation and then give me the result. Got it? Others, any other questions? Kalpana, Tarun?
As of now, I'm good, Ravi.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Then this is about the interface. Now, if let me explain the interface that is being designed by the Appian and how it works, right? So right now, what is happening? We are using these local variables, right? So you see that in the save into parameter, it has the local num1, local num2, and all, right? Now, if I go and open the interface that was created by the Appian here, So they are using RI bank, right? So what is this RI is about? What does it referring?
Rule input.
Rule input. So you can find that rule input in the rule input window. So RI record. Now once you click on this RI record, what's the type of it?
Record type.
Record type. So what does it mean is that if I want to create any rule input, it's, let's say I'm going to create a rule input of name ABC. It's not like we can only select only these fields: number, decimal, date and time, date number. You can also select a particular record type. So let's say I want to say SCM vendor. So you can also select a rule input of a record type, and you can also select a rule input of a CDT type, custom data type. So right now we do not have the CDT used right here because Appian has restricted, and I mean they are suggesting not to use the CDT anymore now. But in your environment, in your practice environment, or in your company, CDTs are
Ravi,
still there. Mhm.
so, so for the new versions going forward, so they are
Mhm.
not going to, they're not like
No,
for new, never use the CDTs, any
no,
new
no,
projects.
it's not like that, because see, they are encouraging to go with the record type, but they are not going to remove the CDT because many existing applications are having the use of CDTs, right? Data store and all. They simply cannot go and remove it. So they are encouraging the people. So whatever the new design you are going to have, please bring in practice to use the record type. Okay.
Mhm.
Do not, I mean, they are not saying that don't use it. They are not providing it here so that you will in practice of using a record type or all the places instead of using the CDT. Okay. But your companies might all have the CDTs, and so you can use the CDTs. So what I will do, we have older videos for the CDTs and then data store that we will share with you guys. Just go and have a look and then try to implement in your environment so you can understand what the CDT is about. Okay. CDT is nothing but a collection of all the primitive data types. What are the primitive data types we have? We have number, integer, decimal, boolean, date and time, right? These are called primitive data types. When you combine all together at one place, you can create a CDT, custom data type of your own type. For an example, if you want to create employee first name, that should be a text. Employee second name, that should be a text. Let's say age, that should be a number integer. Is active should be boolean, right? These are all are the individual fields. Now if I want to collect all these individual fields at one place, like in first name, middle name, last name, date of birth, age, blah blah blah, all those things, right? And create one container that will call as a CDT, custom data type. Okay. So that you will understand when you go through the video, you will get it. Right now Appian doesn't support to create a data type here. Otherwise there was a type called just like data type, and then data store, all those things was here. Okay. All
Yeah.
right, got the task, what has to be done?
Mhm.
All right. Okay. All right then. So now is that clear why this is record type and how we are referring this? Now let me show you that why this record type and how do we refer this field, right? So whenever you define a variable, a rule input of a type of a record, let me go back again, this simple. Let's say I'm going to declare one rule input of name, say what you can put any name, so ABC, and then I'm going to type of a record SCM vendor. Right. Now if I do this, if I want to select a field of it, right? If I want to select a field of it, then we have to do like this. I'm simply doing it here. So first of all, I have to refer rule input RI bank. It will say the name. Okay, fine. But you cannot simply say dot age or dot whatever parameter name, right? You can't say it like that. What we need to do is we need to use a record type parameter. So put a big parenthesis, select the record type. So say record type bank SCM vendor, right? Now you can use the dot parameter. then it will say field, and then which field you want to refer. Let's say I want to refer the email, right? So this is how is being captured here. Let's say for license number, it says RI record SCM vendor dot field dot license number, right? So for value and save into, they are using like that. So this is how some extra coding we have to do into the record type, but why they are encouraging to use the record, because it is 10 times faster by using the, instead of using the CDTs and then data store. Okay, so that's how we refer the field value here. Okay, got it? I think it should be clear. All right. I would say let's stop here, do the practice because it will be too much for you guys now. So create the rule and do not, like, don't give any excuses, right? Create an interface which should accept the values like that and then send it, show me the code. Okay.
Mhm. Thanks, Rami.
All right. Okay. Do it till this and then we can connect tomorrow and then we can proceed. Okay.